Thank you. Hi, everyone at home. Thank you for joining us today on this day that fall seems real and winter not far away, and I'm still in denial about that. I'd like to read something from me. I get a daily reflection in the mail, email every day by one of my colleagues, Reverend Scott Aubrey, and if this is something you want, let me know and I'll send this to you how to sign up. Anyway, it says, studies show that the heartbeats of individuals engaged in the same sensory experience can synchronize into a single rhythm. Like people listening to music together, children gathered around a storyteller, worshipers praying together, people holding each other or laughing together, we unify in perfect order. Bjorn Vikhoff of the God help me the pronunciation, Salgarenska Academy says it's a beautiful way to be. You are not alone, but with others who feel the same way. So I think a lot of our challenges today is that we are out of sync. It doesn't mean that you have to be the same, but you can still be at sync together. Think of it as musicians, or if you go to a symphony, there can sometimes be, 100 musicians up there playing something. But if you were to take one of those parts away and let's say recorded it and listened to it separately, you might not recognize a symphony. But it's amazing how when it all comes together, they're guided by a rhythm or a beat. And once we stay on the beat, we're all together, aren't we? And it all has a way of working. And when you're on the same beat and the same heartbeat even, again, it doesn't mean that you have to be the same, but there is a connection that you're all working with and towards. And even our physical bodies with our actual heart, everything in our body has a different job. In fact, we wouldn't want everything in our body to do the same job. It wouldn't work out well. But it all is guided by that beat. So years ago, I had two people ask me if I could come, or if they could come into my office and talk something through that they were having difficulties with. I don't think they were actually members here, but they wanted to come and for me to hear them out. They were having a very difficult time in their friendship. In fact, they were on the verge of calling the friendship quits. And I don't even remember all the details of the conflict they were having, but I do remember it involved several $100s. It's funny, you let money enter this picture a little bit and how things can get even more heated. And they came in, and I told them, I said, I'm not trained in conflict resolution, but I'll hear your story and hope for the best. And one thing, here's what I do know about conflict resolution, at least in my job. It's not my job to solve it. It is my job to listen. And something that sounds, I know, weird and woo-woo and spiritual, is they say to hold the space, meaning that as I'm hearing a difficult story, especially when it's two people going like this, that I am very aware of my heartbeat and my breathing. And that my job, I believe that moment, is to be as calm as I can and hope that it's contagious a little bit. Maybe that's not the right word to use these days, but that's hopefully that if I can be grounded, it might elevate what happens in the room. And so they came to see me, and they both gave their story. And they were both so upset. And they both felt betrayed by the other. Neither of them could see a way out of this. And the bottom line was, at least to them at that moment, the other person needed to give them money, basically. Sad that it comes down to that for them to feel honored, listened, and heard, and right, is that they would be the ones leaving the room with the cash. Well, I'm not an expert in conflict resolution, but something told me that if that was the basis for a result, we weren't going to leave with a good result. That money was not going to somehow, you were right, you were wrong, or you were right, you were wrong, sort of thing. And again, it's been so long, I can't remember the conversations, honestly. Probably good that I don't. But as I was listening to them, and I don't think they had been in the same room talking for quite a long time. And the only ground rule that I set was that you don't speak over the other person. Even if you're like infuriated in what they're saying, you just, not take it, but you have to take it in. And what I could tell, besides the story, that there was a great grief in the room with their friendship that seemed to be ending. I mean, years of hikes together and coming together for holidays and you name it, that the grief of that having ended over this really ugly thing. And something did start to slowly and almost magically happen here. That neither of them were changing their opinion of who should get the money, but suddenly their friendship started to become a little bit more important than the money. That they started to realize what level of grief they were in, and that this was a terrible place to be, and they didn't want that to continue. So, energetically in the room, there was a point where suddenly it felt the heartbeats were in sync. I didn't have a medical tool to see if that was the thing, but if you're accustomed to just knowing what the feel in the room is, suddenly there was a harmony, not agreement, but harmony. So I just really want to stress that. Not agreement, but harmony. And that just line in the sand sort of thing started to disappear a bit. And they slowly came to a resolution. Not a resolution where one said, I'm right, you're wrong, or I'm wrong, you're right. It was, how can we salvage this friendship and almost just take a agreed to disagree, and how can we maybe come even Stevens with the money? Again, I don't remember how it all worked out. And I can't say that their friendship was completely healed when they left my office, but they definitely had the choice of continuing their friendship. And it was because they were able to, in a sense, resync as friends, have an idea of what truly is important, and to know that even certain things in their, again, transaction, they would possibly never really agree on, but there were things that were more important, and that they could learn to live with that disagreement and shakily move forward in hoping that they can salvage their friendship. And I think they did, as I look back. So why am I telling you this story? We are out of sync. All of us. We are out of sync with our communities. We are out of sync with each other in spiritual community, which seems like it's such a sad irony, doesn't it? And so this week, something happened that we kind of knew was going to happen. It has been Light in the Mountains' commitment to live up or take on any of the protocols given by Blaine County and Ketchum that we would do, that we would follow. They are mandates, but people are choosing not to follow them. And the reason why we have used that as our judge and jury, because, as they say, opinions are a dime a dozen around here in the world. There's a million opinions of what we should be doing about this. And we always thought that if we let that be the judge and jury, it's not my opinion or our leadership council or board's opinion. It's just that that's just what we're going to do. But still this week, as it got announced, I don't know about you, I felt like I was kicked in the gut a little bit for many reasons. First of all, this summer it seemed like we had it on the run, didn't it? It seemed like we were this far from being able to breathe in someone's face on an airplane. You know, not that I would want to do that, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It was just like, you know, it's almost that feeling as a kid, we're going to Disneyland today. You know, it's not here yet, but we're going to Disneyland. If you grew up in Southern California, you know that feeling. You're like, today's the day. I don't know why our parents ever told us that was going to happen. They should have just taken us and they could have alleviated a lot of grief in their life. Are we there yet? When are we going? When's the date? But there was another part of that that kicked me in the stomach, was that here we go again. The same old stories, the same old arguments. Masks works, masks don't work. Vaccinations will save us, vaccinations are worthless. And any number of other things, and they happen between these walls as well. And coincidentally, we were also having our leadership meeting this week, our leadership council, or what I call even our leadership team. That includes Reverend Jill, who is not on the council, but she is definitely part of our leadership team, to come together. And I thought even that could just be same old argument, same old stories, same old lines in the sand kind of thing. And I thought, I just can't do that anymore. I just can't do it anymore. In fact, it's a bit like from the 80s, that movie that many of us have seen so many times, Groundhog's Day, thinking that you're going to get up the next morning and do the same thing and have something different happen. And as you know, the moral of that story, which is really a delightful movie in many ways, we've probably seen it multiple times. It's always on, somewhere on the TV, on cable, that the main character had to have a shift in consciousness from the depths of his being before he was able to move forward in a different experience. It's a great lesson. So I was thinking, and in my own prayer work, how can this be different? And prayer work actually is, how can I be different? Because you can't change anyone else. You know, prayer is not like a magic wand. Oh, change. You know, wouldn't that be great around your house? Oh, change already, kind of thing. We'd all do that with our partners and spouses. We're change, yes, go right ahead and change. It doesn't work that way. So my prayer was, how can I change and show up differently and hope that it might spur on other change? Again, I have no control over that. And so I received the same guidance that I often receive, which was simply this: tell the truth and tell it in the order that it happened. Now, again, telling the truth doesn't mean telling your opinion. We've been telling our truth for months, and that hasn't gotten us anywhere, meaning opinion. Telling a truth is telling you your personal experience and how it affected you. And with as many people in this room here, we could all go do the same thing and have a completely different experience and have a different story of how it happened through our experience. And they're all valid. So again, telling the truth is not telling the truth of the universe. It's telling, how did it happen to you and what was your experience? And so I felt I had to go into our meeting this last week and do that. What has been my experience of being the minister at Light of the Mountains for these last 18 months? It's been exhausting, to be honest with you. It's been frustrating. It's been the hardest work I've ever done in this profession, ever. And at the core of that difficulty is a dissension of opinions and of the different opinions of people wanting me to be their advocate. And I won't do that. And there's great frustration in me in some people's minds, not being their advocate. Because in their minds, for me to be a good leader would be to take on their opinion and run with it. So I can't do that. So in this just telling you how difficult it's been to put forth a different way to do this. That on this weird Groundhog Day that we can wake up and have a different experience at this time around. And that's what I'm determined to do. And yes, we have plans in place here, and I'll talk a little bit about it, which you've probably seen in the email. But as I've said many times, and I don't know where I got this quote from, it's not what you pray for that is important, but what you pray from that is important. What are your intentions? What emotional experience are you carrying with yourself as you interact with other people? And I really had to look no further than the vision that we created for our stewardship campaign, which is, again, as I said last week, ironic. And our vision is for a heart-centered community with the qualities of connection, unity, and celebration. Interesting, again, as I said last week, a group of people came together who have very different opinions, and this came out of it. A longing to be back into sync. And so as I tell you my experience, and as we again had to come up with a plan of what do we do here, and yes, none of us wanted to put masks on again, did we? I certainly didn't. In fact, I forgot how my glasses get fogged up and how annoying that is. And it just was like, oh, can we pretend to not do it? And the answer is, no, we really can't. But in creating a plan, how do we create a plan where we are, again, connected at a heart level and make room for everyone? It's actually possible. How can we create a plan or a pray from attitude where my personal being right is no longer important? Whereas my personal opinion that someone else is wrong is no longer important. And how there's a certain about within that humanly on the ego level doesn't feel right, does it? But no, I am right. They are wrong. Don't they see what they're, again, replay, it's all up there. You could experience it all afternoon at home, so we won't do that here today. So how can we, as a spiritual community that claims to honor the connection and oneness in all, create a place for everyone and to honor where each person is coming from and where they are at? And so this is what we came up with. And if you received our email this week, you're experiencing the plan here. So it's basically this. So this is how it came up. So about 3 weeks ago, I had a couple of people approach me that wanted to have proof of vaccinations provided at the front door. Again, our commitment is to go with the Ketchum and Blaine County guidelines, so that's not in the guidelines. And I started to realize something. And again, to listen to their personal need in that moment. Again, a lot of times it's an opinion, But what were these couple people's personal need? Well, their personal need, of course, was to feel safe. And how can they feel safe as well as other people feel safe? And I realized that we weren't looking at our building in a holistic manner to create zones for everyone. And again, within the Ketchum guidelines. It's all possible. It's interesting how this all fits in. And at that time, I said, we have this amazing social hall area that we stream the service into. And if you're feeling a reticence of being close to people because you don't even know what their vaccination status is, that could be a really good place for you. And again, not to send you to your room, but a place where you would feel that you were being listened to. In fact, when we set that up a few years ago, we jokingly called it, "I'm having a moment room." like, okay, you've got some young kids and they're squirmy, and it's like, let's just go walk the kids in the other room and I can still see Sunday service. Or just sometimes as adults we get squirmy, or I'm just uncomfortable, I'm processing too much and I need to pace. So we called it the having a moment room. So maybe we're all having a moment. And that protocols will come and go and change, and it might be any one of us moment that we just feel more comfortable being in the let's have a moment room. So currently, within the guidelines, we are doing mandatory masks in here, unless if you were presenting. And we have chairs 6 feet distance in the other room where masks are optional. Again, it says if you can be 6 feet apart, you can take off the mask per the Ketchum guidelines. So everyone can be in the building. And again, guidelines could change next week and we might switch. So it's not, again, sending someone to a less desirable part of the building. But then, of course, there is the ultimate just feeling safe and secure. 2/3 or more of our congregation is there. Hi, everyone. And you've discovered great things. You actually don't have to do this live. And if you do live, you don't have to get out of your pajamas. All you have to do is plug in the coffee pot, if that's something that you do. And if you're not an early bird, you can see us later. You can see us on Monday. You could see us next Thursday. You could see us next Saturday night. It's a complete freedom of choice of when you want to experience this. And again, about 2/3 of our congregation has been doing that. And it's just going to be that way for a while. I don't know how it's going to come to a conclusion. Again, I was on board with the summer. I think we're almost there. We're going to Disneyland. It's almost over. Great things are happening. And here we are. But I believe the core, again, is Groundhog Day. Will we do this differently this time? Not just here, but everywhere. Will it be less important to be right than it is to be connected? And again, please do what we all feel we need to do for our own health. And that, again, that varies a little bit. And the one thing that I found with these different groups, each one thought the other one had lost their silly minds. Interesting about that. And they had kind of the same talking points. I thought, really? Did you just listen to what they were saying about you? And I just found that very interesting, as a matter of fact. That the same negative conclusion about those who think differently than you would come up out of these two big groups. So as we come together as a spiritual community, what is more important to you? Again, please do not do anything that you think would compromise your health, or even what you hold to be dear. But is your line in the sand more important? Or creating a holistic, even building here where we can all be served? And imagine if each of us took that same consciousness out into our communities. Over the years, I have received a common compliment from people that live in the community about you, as a matter of fact. So we are not seen as, I guess you would say, a traditional faith tradition. In fact, many people who are in more traditional faith traditions in this valley aren't quite sure what we're up to. They may come every once in a while and says, this was kind of nice. Still don't know what you're doing, but nice. And this is what people tell me at Atkinson's. Again, it all happens at Atkinson's. I'm just buying things to make tacos tonight. And this happens. It happens all the time. But anyways, they say, I don't know what you guys do over there, but I'm glad you're here. And I love that compliment about you. I don't know what you're up to, but I'm glad you're here, which means all of you at home, all of you here, make a difference in our community, and it's being noticed. I would like to continue to hear that compliment. So here's a little clue. If you're just feeling that like thing that you, I don't know, let's call it, you want to be naughty, okay, I'm going to say this thing because I'm right. Again, probably at Atkinson's, because it all happens at Atkinson's. What if you kind of remembered what I said right now? I said, you know, people are glad that we're here. How can I affirm that? Just think about that. At that moment, you're ready to just give that zinger out. What if, again, you just, because you know everyone's watching. It really, I mean, it's true. It's a small town. Everyone knows your business to a certain extent. And so if you're going to act badly in public, people are going to know. Like I said, my joke, which is not a joke, said if I want to throw a fit in public, I have to at least go to Boise. I can't do it here. It's just like, oh, did you hear about what Reverend John did? You know, he was just so mean to that checker at Atkinson's. So word gets around in a sense, but let it get around in a good way. Again, dozens of people through the years have given me that compliment about you. Let's continue with that. Let's get rid of our lines in the sand and ask ourselves, how do we include everyone, even those who infuriate me? How can we let our hearts beat together like that conflict resolution that I was part of years ago, that there was that moment that their hearts beating together was more important than their story and was more important than the several $100s. That's how we'll get out of this thing, I guarantee you. I just want to close today with something new that, not new, something that Ernest Holmes wrote many years ago that I had never read before. He says, we may meet difficulties, uncertainties, and doubts, barriers walling our passage. But we must not be discouraged and when so confronted. We must climb over the rocks of unbelief, pass around the barriers of doubt, and plunge into the stream with faith. The stream will ever widen. The barriers will gradually disappear. Though we walk through the plains and valleys of indecision and doubt, the stream will carry us back to the ocean of our being. So let's just go within for a moment. And let's recognize that it's just not those of us in this room. That there are many people who are with us in real time now on live stream. There are many people who will tune in later on this week with live stream. But even more important than that, all of us that have this experience together will, in a sense, emotionally reach out and touch other people. So in a few moments of quiet, just imagine that our hearts are all beating together. And bring into this circle someone with whom you most disagree with. Imagine your heart aligning with theirs. And know that this is the truth of your being and something you can create wherever you are at any time. And so it is.